strengthen democracy, to promote human rights.
A routine flight carrying Libya's top brass. An emergency call moments after takeoff. A sudden loss that shook Libya deeply. Questions linger as investigations move ahead. Here's what happened and why it matters. Hello, I'm Kriti Mehta and you're watching another episode of Explained with me. Today, we take a closer look at a tragedy that has sent shockwaves through Libya and resonated far beyond its borders. On December 23, a private jet carrying almost all of Libya's senior military leadership crashed shortly after taking off from Turkey. Among those killed was Libya's Chief of Army Staff, Lieutenant General Mohammed al-Haddad, a central figure in efforts to reunify the country's fractured armed forces. The crash has raised urgent questions about aviation safety, military leadership, and regional geopolitics. In this episode, we'll walk you through what happened, how the investigation is unfolding, and why this incident could reshape Libya's future. The aircraft at the center of the crash was a Harmony Jets Flight 185, a Dassault Falcon 50 business jet that had been in service for 37 years. Operated by Harmony Jets and registered in Malta, the aircraft was flying from Ankara's Izzenboga Airport to Mitiga International Airport located in Libya's capital city, Tripoli. The flight took off on the 23rd of December at exactly 5:17 p.m. GMT. For the first few minutes, the journey appeared routine. However, about 15 minutes after departure, the aircraft stopped climbing at an altitude of 32,475 feet. Just 1 minute later, the crew changed the transponder code to quote-unquote Squawk 7700, which is an international distress signal indicating a serious emergency. Air traffic control was informed that the aircraft was experiencing an electrical malfunction. The pilot immediately requested an emergency landing and was cleared to return to Izzenboga Airport. Emergency crews were placed on standby and preparations began on the runway. But before the aircraft could make its back, events that took a dramatic turn. At 5:36 p.m. GMT, barely 3 minutes after requesting the emergency landing, the plane began descending rapidly. Moments later, all contact with air traffic control was lost. Radar data showed the aircraft disappearing near the village of Baba Yaqub, roughly 2 kilometers south of Himana. Security camera footage from the area later captured what appeared to be an explosion in the sky. Search teams eventually located the wreckage near Kesikavak village in Himana district within Turkey's borders. The debris was scattered across an area of nearly 3 square kilometers, pointing to a violent mid-air breakup. All 8 people on board were unfortunately killed. As the scale of the disaster became clear, attention quickly shifted from the wreckage to the identities of those who had been on board. The crash claimed 8 lives. They included 3 crew members and 5 Libyan military officials, among them which were present some of the most powerful figures in Libya's armed forces. At the center of the tragedy was Libya's Chief of Staff, Lieutenant General Mohammed al-Haddad. Lieutenant General al-Haddad had served as Chief of the General Staff of the Libyan Army since 2020. He was the highest-ranking military officer under Libya's internationally recognized Government of National Unity based in Tripoli. Since the collapse of the Libyan state following the overthrow of Muammar Gaddafi in 2011, the country's military has been deeply fragmented. Al-Haddad emerged as a key figure in efforts to rebuild national military institutions. He believed that stabilizing Libya required a single professional armed force, but that had to be regulated under civilian oversight. He advocated the rule of law and supported democratic principles with the long-term aim of moving Libya away from militia dominance. Additionally, he worked to strengthen command structures, particularly in western Libya, where powerful armed groups and militias have a long-held influence. Importantly, he resisted attempts by these militia to dominate state decision-making. This stance earned him both respect and political weight across rival factions. So al-Haddad was widely regarded as a unifying figure in a deeply divided country like Libya. He maintained working relationships across political lines and was seen as essential to UN-backed military unification efforts. On the day of the crash, he had held meetings with Turkish officials in Ankara. Those talks focused on strengthening military and security cooperation between Libya and Turkey. But his sudden death has left a significant leadership vacuum. Analysts warn that his absence could slow or even reverse progress towards military integration. Observers have noted that his leadership style combined authority with personal credibility, allowing him to engage with rival groups. That combination now is very difficult to replace. In the immediate aftermath, Libya's Presidential Council has appointed General Salah Eddin al-Namrush as acting chief of staff. A permanent replacement is yet to be announced. But the loss extended beyond one man, affecting the broader leadership of Libya's armed forces. Four additional senior Libyan military officials were killed in the crash. General al-Fatouri Gabriel, who headed Libya's ground forces, was among them. Brigadier General Mahmoud al-Katawi, the director of the Military Manufacturing Authority, also lost his life. Mohammed al-Asawi Diab, a senior military advisor to the Chief of Staff, was also on board. And Mohammed Umar Ahmed Mahjoub, a military photographer working closely with the Chief of Staff's office, was also killed. Together, these officials represented key pillars of Libya's military command structure. Their deaths further weaken an institution already struggling with fragmentation and political pressure. With such a significant loss of leadership, the focus has now turned to the investigation into what caused the crash. Investigations into the causes have commenced following the crash. Turkish and Libyan authorities are jointly leading the inquiry. More than 400 personnel have been deployed to the crash site. Challenges to the probe include poor weather conditions as well as the wide debris field of the wreck. Despite these challenges, both the cockpit voice recorder and flight data recorder were successfully recovered. These devices are critical to reconstructing the aircraft's final moments. So far, Turkey's Ministry of Justice has assigned 4 prosecutors to the case. The Turkish Forensic Medicine Authority has been tasked with identifying victims and handling remains. Meanwhile, Libya has dispatched a 22-member delegation to Ankara, including 5 relatives of the victims. Libyan officials have said that preliminary indications point to a technical malfunction. To ensure transparency, Turkey has announced that the black boxes will be analyzed in a neutral third country. Officials say that this step is intended to guarantee impartial findings. Now, Turkish authorities have initially ruled out sabotage. They point to the pilot's report of an electrical failure as evidence of a technical issue. Let's now listen in to what the Turkish Interior Minister has said on the continuing search operations.
Libya heyeti mevcuttur. 3'ü mürettebat olmak üzere toplam 8 kişi taşıyan Falcon 50 tipi hava aracı saat 20.32'de teknik arıza nedeniyle geri dönüş yapacağını bildirmiş. Olay yerinde yürütülen çalışmalar neticesinde enkaz alanında saat 02.45'te uçağa ait ses kayıt cihazı, saat 03.20'de ise kara kutu bulunmuştur. Bunların inceleme ve değerlendirme süreçleri ilgili kurumlarca başlanmıştır.
As the investigation continues, the crash has already begun to reshape political calculations beyond aviation safety. The crash occurred at a sensitive moment in Libyan-Turkish relations. Let's break down the geopolitical implications for Libya and Turkey. Now, Turkey has been a major player in Libya since 2019. It intervened militarily in support of the Tripoli-based government of national unity. That support deepened political, military, and economic ties between Ankara and Tripoli. Al-Haddad's visit was aimed at expanding this cooperation. This visit came just a day after Turkey's parliament approved a 2-year extension of troop deployment in Libya. Turkey has also been pursuing a One Libya policy. This involves engaging with both Western and Eastern factions while also protecting strategic interests, including the 2019 Maritime Agreement. Any disruption to Libya's stability could affect regional rivalries involving Greece and Egypt. It could also influence energy exploration in the Eastern Mediterranean. Meanwhile, inside Libya, political divisions too remain unresolved. Rival administrations continue to compete for power. Lieutenant General al-Haddad was a central stabilizing force within the government of national unity. His death weakens that position and could be exploited by rival factions. This incident occurs amid ongoing tensions with Eastern authorities led by Khalifa Haftar. So you see, the balance of power remains fragile. Yet beyond politics and strategy, the human cost of this tragedy has resonated deeply across Libya. Let's listen into a few reactions coming from Libya's capital city of Tripoli.
إعلان الحداد اللي تزامن في المنطقة الشرقية والمنطقة الغربية على وفاة قائد الأركان محمد الحداد دليل على أن هناك إجماع وطني ورغبة في لم الشمل والمصالحة
في حصل في تنكيس العلم شرقا وغربا. هذا يدل على أن الفريق محمد الحداد شخصية مميزة وشخصية محبوبة لدى الكل.
يعني كان يسعى لي من سنوات كثيرة يعني لتوحيد المؤسسة العسكرية، وكان يجتمعوا كذا مرة، وتوا بموته هو يعني بوفاته هو حتكون في صعوبة، ما فيش شك يعني مش تحصل شخص زي هذا المسيرة متاعها كانت كبيرة في الموضوع هذا، ما فيش شك.
Libya has also declared 3 days of national mourning. Flags are flying at half-staff across state institutions. Official events and celebrations have been suspended. The mourning period has affected Libya's planned Independence Day commemorations. As investigators work to determine what caused Harmony Jet's Flight 185 to crash, Libya faces a moment of uncertainty. What follows could shape Libya's military unification, political stability, and regional relationships for years to come. That is all for now on this episode of Explained. Thank you for staying tuned to NewsX World. Live news and updates continue right after.